Hello, let's try something different today. I've been thinking about something. You see, in my line of work, there's an inordinate amount of just boring, repetitive manual labor. I'll be putting together pedals, packing them up, shipping them out, doing stuff like that. I need my hands for that, and I need my eyes for that, so I can't watch stuff, right? However, I don't need my ears unless I'm testing pedals or developing something, and I don't need my brain unless I'm doing either of those things or maybe some accounting, or answering emails or whatever. So I'll tend to just listen to stuff, and for the longest time I would always try to seek out pedal related news, gear videos, reviews, stuff like that. And over the last 2 years it feels like that has slowed down substantially, and there are many reasons for this. I think most pedal companies have much lower budgets to be doing stuff like that. The market has slowed down, and the people who would normally provide that type of content have also sort of moved on to bigger and better things, I suppose. So why don't I try to fill that void for you? This is what this is. So let's see how that works out. If you like it, feel free to, push the like button and subscribe and share it with your friends. I've even made, due to popular demand, a membership section here on YouTube as well as on Patreon. And so that's an exciting and weird new venture for me. So I'm making 3 tiers. You can join for free. You get sort of early access to stuff. You'll know about pedals coming out before they come out. You can pre-order them. You'll see the videos first, all for free. I'll make a second tier. I think I'm going to stick that at 10 USD, and it'll give you a fixed 10% off any pedal at any time. It's not much still, and I'm sort of gaining a lot of trust and influence over you guys. And you'll only be getting a 10% discount, but it really helps me. And it also means that if you've been eyeing out maybe like a midnight soul, you could get a quite substantial discount on that. So something to consider. I might be adding a 3rd tier as well. More expensive, more supportive. For my best friends, it would give you a free pedal every year. How does that sound? So yeah, let's get into it. This will be the first episode of some kind of a show, where I'll be acting as a zeitgeist pirate, looking at what's coming out and giving you my thoughts on it. So hopefully that's something you'd like to see. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Speaking of subscriptions and microtransactions and new and different ways to make money as a pedal company, let's talk about BOSS, because something happened last week. Now, it's good that something happened because very little has been happening all year long. Many companies have been very careful to release products because the market is difficult. There's a trade war going on. The sort of consumer confidence is really low, and it's risky doing stuff. I've been busy. I've been releasing a lot of stuff, and I've had huge issues with my production model. Everything is delayed. Everything's taking so long. Some of you have waited for months to receive what you thought were brand new products and what I thought I would be able to deliver quickly. That's how it used to be. It no longer is. So it's good to see that people are now finally making stuff again, and we saw Death by Audio release the crossover fuzz, which looks really cool. And of course JHS did the McGee inspired Porta preamp thing, which was also really cool and sparked a lot of discussion. But last week we saw BOSS releasing the Plugout FX, the PX1, which is not the first time someone attempts something like this. But at the same time, I think it's kind of a bit different from some of the stuff that we've seen before. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. I've seen a lot of takes, some good, some great, and some not as good. But there's one thing that I haven't seen anyone discuss yet. Maybe they have and I just haven't seen it, but I haven't seen it. And so we'll get into that too. But let's first talk about what it is. So the Plugout FX is a regular old BOSS shaped stomp pedal. with 3 knobs and a little screen. And it's essentially just a housing for your plugins, your specifically BOSS plugins. So you can make this pedal be whatever pedal you want it to be, right? As long as it's a BOSS pedal. This is part of the issue. And the way that you do this is you sell the thing itself for just 249 USD. That sounds like a lot, but in order to produce something like that, you need quite robust chipsets, and it's an expensive thing to make. And so that's just like the hub. And then you can sell the plugins one by one, or as a subscription, like a monthly subscription, like your Netflix subscription, or whatever. And this has sparked a lot of controversy. I've seen a lot of people be kind of annoyed by this idea, and I can understand why. But there is something about that that's very specific to 2025, and that has to do with the trade war. Because right now, for someone like BOSS to release something onto the US market is going to be quite tricky. You're not going to want to pay $100 more for a blues driver as compared to before. So they have to come up with some way to get around the whole tariffing system. And this is one such way, because you can sell this thing once at $250. Considering the tariff hit, that's a very good price. And then they can sell you tariff-free plugins that you can plug into the pedal. And so you can just keep buying those instead. And they'll be tariff-free, they'll be tax-free mostly. And it's a way for them to survive. And so that's what's actually going on here, I think. Now, in addition to that, BOSS has all year long been pushing their plugins for use with a DAW, like Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase, stuff like that. And so you can actually use these on your guitar. That goes alongside the thing that JHS did with the preamp thing, both with the color box and now with the 424. Where we find different ways to make music. And I think there are some things in this that I find interesting, but there are also some things about this that I find to be a little bit less interesting. So let's talk about that. There is something about this product that annoys me, and it isn't actually the subscription model. We might end up in a situation where this is the only way we can have BOSS around, and that's not the worst case scenario. I understand that it's annoying, and I'm not sure I'm happy with it, but we might not have any way to get around at least this transitional period without it. But what the Plugout FX also is a different way of thinking about multi-effects as a genre of equipment. And that part annoys me a little bit, because I feel like we have lost the vision as a guitar community about what we're doing here sometimes. Now let me explain. So in my mind, there are 2 types of pedals. You have inspirational ones and you have practical ones. Now you need both, right? In order to perform live, you might need some specific things. Maybe you need a specific overdrive because that's your sound. In my case, it's a fuzz phase type thing because it gives me the huge dynamic range and the sort of operability from afar. I have a Univibe that I use to make my sound interesting at all times, and I also have a reverb because my amp doesn't have any reverb. So that's kind of what I need. I need a guitar too, this one, and some kind of Marshall amp. Now, I do have a lot of practical stuff as well. I have a pedal board, I have a power supply, I have a Dunlop fuzz phase behind here that I'm using as a kind of anchor. So as I'm testing pedals, I plug into that, and it's so heavy that it just keeps my cable plugged in, so that whenever I'm testing something, it just doesn't just like sort of fall off the table all the time. Then I also have the Iridium from Strymon, which I use as a kind of amp for videos and for testing stuff as I build it, because, I'm doing everything from home, and I have 5 children and a wife, and they won't be happy with me if I plug into the JCM 800 every day, right? So these are practical things. They make... They enable me to make music and to make products for you and to sort of explore sound. Very important. And then there's the other genre, which is inspirational stuff. And this is what I try to do most of the time. Most of my stuff has a little bit of practicality to it. I want to make it sort of user-friendly, and I want it to be something that sounds good live more than it does on a video, which is in fact a bit of a paradox. Sometimes the stuff that you hear online on YouTube won't sound that good live, and vice versa. You can't really meet in the middle there, so that's a tricky thing. Maybe something for another video. But the way I see it is, most of the time you should be buying pedals because they're challenging and they're inspirational. They make you stumble, and when you stumble, you find something new. You find solutions to problems you didn't have before. So you create new issues for yourself that then lead to discoveries within yourself. That's what this is about. At least it is for me. And so whenever someone buys a multi-effects processor, you're sort of not getting either one of them, because maybe the multi-effects processor is super convenient, super easy to work with, but mostly it's not really that practical. You'll have to sort of program it, you'll have to go through everything. There'll be moments of option paralysis where you don't know what sound you want. It's the same thing as trying to sort of program a drum kit in a DAW, in a digital audio workstation, where you'll be going through like 150 kick drums, and at some point they all sound the same, and you could just take the first one, plug it into a compressor, and get what you want anyway, right? So it doesn't really matter. So they're not necessarily all that practical, and from what I've seen with the Plugout FX thing, it doesn't seem super practical. It doesn't seem super impractical. But again, there's the element of option paralysis that might be triggered in there. And then the other part of it is, they're not built to be creative, inspirational tools. They're supposed to be giving you access to everything. And whenever you have access to everything, that doesn't necessarily always end up giving you what you want, what you actually need. So my model has always been to try to just make really opinionated, strong, characterful, personal pedals. If I like it, there's a chance you like it too, right? Hopefully, that's the best case scenario. Then you play it, you make some songs, maybe I hear them, and you do something to them that I haven't thought about, and that spurs a new idea in me, and we have this back and forth going on. I've had this for years with Ruben Nielsen from Immortal Orchestra. So he would use my Embla fuzz for one of his records, and then on that record he was using other stuff in addition to the Embla that then spurred what became Odin, right? So that's kind of how that moves around like that, and I think that thing has to do with being a human. It's not about like making sure everything is like tied down perfectly to your pedal board, everything works as intended, is always predictable, and you know, nothing goes wrong ever. You have like backups and backup plans if something goes wrong. That's not what we're doing, is it? At least that's not what I'm doing. I want the thing that I buy to be chaotic in a way that maybe it isn't as comfortable, but at least it sort of brings me to somewhere else, somewhere interesting. So it sort of fails at that for me personally. I mean, I think on the other hand, you could buy the Plugout FX and you could try a bunch of BOSS effects, and maybe you haven't tried all of them. Maybe there are some pedals like the slow gear that they don't make, and nearly nobody else makes one either. So that's one way to get that, and might be worth it just for that, right? But there's another part to this that's missing the mark a little bit. And if we look at how Apple solved this when they first released the App Store, I think we all have something to learn from this, because BOSS might be one of the first to do this, but they won't be the last. And one thing I think this thing is missing is what Apple did, because they, of course, had the huge infrastructure to back the App Store. It was a big company, and it came alongside the first iPhone, which was like a historical cultural event when that was launched. And it was open to other developers. And I don't know if BOSS is ever going to be doing that. They would have to sort of make available their development kit, and that's risky, right, for a somewhat small company like BOSS, at least if you compare it to like Apple, right? So, you know, I think it's difficult to do something like that without making it the standard method. And it cannot be the standard method if it's a closed system. Do you understand? So if you can't have Eventide or Strymon sort of be a part of that, or even me, I could make a fuzz and you could load it into your Plugout FX. If we did that, they could have done what they did with power connection with the DC plug that sort of became the standard for the industry, and everyone now uses it, and it makes everything easier for you. So if somebody, and it has to be someone as big as BOSS who does this, but just makes a platform that we use. But there already is a platform, right? And it's like VST plugins, AU plugins. That's the actual standard. And so if you can use something like the Plugout FX or some other device from some other company, and you can actually plug in whatever plugin you want, then maybe we have something. But then we're back to the problem with how many controls should the thing have? Should you have like 10 knobs and then you can map which ones you should use? The practicality disappears again, and so does the creativity. So I'm torn. I'm happy to for you to tell me what you think about it. I think it's an interesting thing. It's potentially an important move for BOSS, and I don't think we can get away from what's going to happen. I think it's still a bit early. It's a bit premature for this to sort of overtake the thing. And I don't think you can really replace just a good old fuzz box. It's the perfect thing. It's just a mechanical, simple electronics-based product that'll work for 60 years or 100 years or whatever. And it'll always be inspiring and different and interesting. And it makes music. It makes music for you and with you and against you. And it's the beautiful thing. And I'm missing that a little bit. There has been a tendency across the whole industry to try and just cram as many features as possible into every product, and I'm not sure it's the right move. I've been taken by this too, and I'll show you this shortly with the LOKE. But yeah, now there's another thing about the whole idea about the sort of multi-effects processor that I've been thinking about, and it has to do with how your company is structured, because I'm doing mostly everything myself. I'm sharing the company with one other guy, and he's more of a silent partner in the endeavor, but he's behind the algorithms in LOKE and Fjär and Dovre and Mime and all of that stuff, and he's really good at it, and so I'm happy to have him. He's good at other stuff too, so yeah, it's a great partnership. But the thing is, we can do kind of what we want to do, whereas someone as big as BOSS would be creating products more by committee, and that sort of leads to this thing where you have to make sure that everyone has been taken care of. You've thought about everything. I don't do that, and some of you have felt that on your body and in your anger, because sometimes I'll miss the mark for you, right? I can't please everyone. I'm essentially building the pedals that I would like to have on my own pedal board, and if they work for you, then that's perfect, as we discussed earlier. So there was a time when I sort of kind of moved a little bit in the way towards a multi-effects processor. I think in a way Midnight Soul is a little bit like that, but not really. But LOKE is probably the thing that's the most like that. And at the same time, it really isn't. And I thought I'd show you how it's different. So it's a delay pedal, right? And I'm not a big fan of delay pedals. I like the concept, but I like it more in terms of what is actually happening, where you have a signal and then a copy of the signal that happens in a different time frame as opposed to just the actual recorded signal. And how that moves against the original signal is the stuff that I'm most interested in. So what LOKE is it's taking, because we're using a kind of lower grade processor in here, we can only get at max about 400 milliseconds of delay. So you'll get a decent longer delay from it, but what it's really about is exploring what happens in the movement between these two signals. So I thought I'd play some and we'd discuss how this differs from a multi-effects processor. I mean, that should be obvious just looking at it, but I think it's still interesting and it sort of illustrates my points from earlier. So let's do that. Okay, I'm playing my 1957 Music Master and the Strymon Iridium set up as a Marshall amp. I always keep bass, middle and treble at just midnight. The drive is at like 1 o'clock and then the level is just adjusted to wherever it works. So right now that's maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So the LOKE is now like a 2-year-old or so product, and it explores moving signals and short delays. Okay, and so what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to give you essentially all of the effects that you would find in a sort of reel-to-reel setup, where you have tapes that go out of sync with each other, so you can get flanging and chorus and vibrato and delays and double trackers and just preamp sounds. So let's explore that. On the left hand side there's a control for the wet signal and one for the dry signal, and at the midnight setting they're at about 50%, and that gives you like a 1-to-1 representation of your sound. So this is without it. And it's you almost can't tell the difference, right? So that's the first effect that it has available, just being a buffer. It's just a buffer now. Now you can make it in kind of an overdrive or a booster. Just turn up the This will work differently depending on your amplifier, because there are no clipping diodes in here. If you want that, you can get that from Fjär. It has clipping diodes and more gain, so you can make it behave more like an overdrive, like a true overdrive. But this is like a booster, so if your amplifier is already on the verge of breakup, you can make it break up. So that's quite nice. Let's turn it back to just midnight and then introduce the delayed signal. Now, with everything else set to minimum, you can actually just use that instead. It'll have like a tiny bit of a lag to it, but it's almost unnoticeable. I think it's in the milliseconds, like low, like single digit milliseconds. So you can actually just use it alongside the dry for even more saturation, not necessarily more gain or more volume, but then you add delay time up top. there's two modes. One is for a shorter delay time. This happens mechanically. So shorter delay time in the white mode, and then longer in the pink mode. It's all running off the same algorithm. So this is just mechanically making the range of the delay control shorter. Now we're squarely in the double tracking mode. That's pretty cool. You can add some movement to that with the random modulator, which is the other two smaller knobs. And depending on the settings on the top two knobs, which is the delay and the feedback, you can get chorus, you can get vibrato, you can get flanger. And so yeah, let's get a good chorus. With my chorus, I like to have a little bit of regeneration, a little bit of feedback. Let's make it clean, so you can really hear it. Oh, that's boring now. Sorry. With Fjord fuzz, not Fjord pedals. That's a good chorus. Let's get rid of the dry tone, and then let's turn down the delay time so it's in time with your playing, or as close as it gets. And now you have a vibrato. You can make it crazy. And it has a bit of thickness due to the feedback. You can make it drier. Or you can make it do like crazy sound. That's pretty cool. I like the flanging stuff that happens around this point, and you need both signals to be about the same volume, and then you need to increase the feedback, and you'll hear it start oscillating, and you can pull it back, set the modulator, random modulator, low, no, high, but slow. And alongside some drive, you have like it's a bit much. I love that. There's also expression pedal for just the delay time, and so if you just set the controls to 0, let's just sort of make it feel like that's what's going on. You can kind of do this in real time, so it's a manual flange, kind of similar to what would happen if you actually had a reel-to-reel tape set up and put your thumb to the tape the way that the Beatles did, and it goes like. And you could do that with an expression pedal, which I think that's kind of where this thing started, and it just ballooned into what this thing is. Do that as you play, and so you can sort of swell into a double tracker. At double tracking. Now this is more of a kind of slapback thing. And if you need longer delays, you can get that too. And you can add the modulation, of course, if you want that. This thing does all kinds of stuff. It's not a multi-effects pedal, but you know, you can do overdrive, vibrato, manual flange, random chorus. Why is it random, by the way? Well, I don't like delay pedals and modulation pedals mostly because they always sort of get in the way. You can have a tap tempo or an expression pedal, but it's difficult to get it to line up with what you're playing. So my idea has always been, what if it never lines up instead? It just never lines up with your signal, and instead it's never in the way, or it's never more in the way than it should be. It's always in the way, but at equal amounts, so it never gets annoying. That's the idea behind that. So yeah, I mean, a few years ago, I made like a huge video on this thing, so I've linked that below. So if you want to check out everything that it does, that thing takes care of it. But yeah, that's LOKE. You can get that at any time. So, you know, now that you might have 10% off, maybe this is the one you need, right? Go get one. So yeah, that's LOKE. And hopefully that helps illustrate my point about these sort of multiprocessor things. I don't have anything against it, and I can see you getting maybe like a fuzz pedal, an overdrive pedal, and then some kind of multi-effects thing that takes care of all your modulation, reverb, delay stuff. That makes sense to me. I get it completely. I think it's a bit boring, personally, and I truly and honestly think that the way to sort of purity of free expression and free creativity comes through fully self-contained, opinionated effect boxes that some kind of artist, maybe not me, maybe someone else, has made on purpose to be sort of just that thing. And they can be deep and complex like LOKE is, or they can be really simple like Odin is, where it just has like a fuzz and an octave fuzz and gain control for each and a shared master volume. And both of those two things can sort of do the same thing for you creatively, where I think you should maybe reconsider how you approach buying gear is in your intention, in the sort of psychological modality of it, where maybe instead of thinking, how will this thing solve everything for me in a life situation, what if you think something like, how will this bring me out of my comfort zone or open up new doors to new expressive potentials, stuff like that. That's just my advice, and yeah, that's how I feel about it. Of course, I make more money if you go by this sort of modality, because this is how I operate, and the products that I create match that intention. So keep that in mind. I'm biased, but that's my opinion. I think, however, that the boss thing, I think it's interesting that it happens, and I think we'll see more of it, and I think it probably needs some kind of system that's more vast than just applying to only boss stuff for it to truly work for all of us. The same way we're all using 1/4-inch jacks, we're all using, or mostly all using 9-volt 2.1 millimeter negative center pin power, and as long as we do that, everything just sort of fits together in a way that's predictable and useful and doesn't add a bunch of headaches to whatever you're trying to do. So that's my thoughts on that. Another thing that happened this week was Andertons finally reached their goal of having 1 million subscribers. So congratulations to especially Lee and all the rest of the guys. I was there once promoting this exact pedal, actually, alongside Hedda, which is now discontinued, and it was a lovely experience. I met up with the guys. They took me out to eat at a sort of pub next door, and then we went into the little room that they have next to the shop where they shoot all the videos, and it was just such a beautiful time. And Lee is a gentleman, and so is Pete, and yeah, I mean, we had a great time. Lee actually drove me in his beautiful car to the train station afterwards, so that was fun too. And yeah, I think that's I think that's it for today. So thank you for watching. If this is something you want me to keep doing, I will. I don't mind. I think it's 2025, so not every week or every other week or however often I do this will include a bunch of new stuff, but people keep sending me their creations, so I'll be doing some like reviews of stuff. I thought that would be fun. I'll do it for free. I'll show you how it works. I'll compare it to my stuff, because I'm trying to sell that too, and I'll talk a little bit about how they differ from my stuff and how I get along with it. And with the Patreon thing and the membership thing, I'll figure out how you can send me questions. I've had some questions recently that I thought like that could be a video, so maybe we'll do that for the next one. There's a new product coming soon, so do subscribe at least to the newsletter. You'll find that at fjordfuzz.com. Go to the bottom of the page. You'll get to know what's going on. I have something very fun and very much in line with everything I've been speaking about today coming out very soon, and I can't wait to share it all with you, because it's one of my oldest circuits and it's never been properly released, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, thank you for watching. Join all the stuff, help me get through this, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.